Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, and I'm here to do two videos tonight. My first video is a Dark Shadows video, obviously. Before I get started, I want to thank everybody who voted on Twitter for the thumbnail, at Frid Barnabas, at Pop Rag, at Willie Loomis. Um, just thank you guys for voting for it. Pretty sure someone else voted. If I missed your name, I apologize, but thank you to everybody who voted. I really appreciate it. So, my video is about not just Jonathan Frid, obviously, but the character he portrayed in Dark Shadows, Barnabas Collins. Now, during the Phoenix arc, Dan Curtis was coming up with Barnabas Collins. His daughters had sort of told him they felt he should take a chance, and it was the Phoenix arc that really gave him the confidence to sort of open that coffin lid, really. And for those who don't know, Barnabas Collins fictionally is a vampire. Um, he became a vampire in the year 1795 when Angelique, who is a witch, put a curse on him. Um, she thought she was dying. He shot her with a flintlock pistol, and if you don't know what that is, look it up. um, in the shoulder. And Barnabas, who wasn't the most accurate shot on that given day, and if he would have been a better shot, he wouldn't have had the problem he did in getting cursed. That's a little fun I like to have. I always like to tell this joke that Barnabas Collins is no Solomon Kane. Okay, he's not a witch killer. It's a little fun I like to have. It's a joke. Solomon Kane is another fictional character, by the way, who's a witch hunter, but that's neither here or there. So Barnabas shoots her with a flintlock. He hits her in the shoulder. She curses him. She tells him, "I curse you, Barnabas Collins." She passes out from the pain and loss of blood, and a bat comes crashing through the window and bites him on the neck. And this all takes place in the year 1795. Now, you don't see this all right away when Barnabas does arrive. Barnabas debuts April 18th, 1967. Keep in mind that Jonathan Frid is not British. He's Canadian, but he did a beautiful job playing a British character, a character who was claiming to be from England. And you might say, where does the Barnabas Collins arc really start? After, post Phoenix arc. The Barnabas Collins arc starts when Jason McGuire, who is a con man, shows up to town and is looking for Elizabeth Collins' daughter, is asking questions about her. And Jason ends up blackmailing Elizabeth. And he blackmails her because, according to Jason, Paul Stoddard died the night Elizabeth hit him over the head with a fire poker. That's right, a fire poker. Here's a newsflash: he didn't die. If you're a Dark Shadows fan, you know this. If you're hearing this for the first time and don't want to, then change the channel. It's a spoiler. So Jason and Paul fake Paul's death. Jason tells Liz that Paul died because he ushers her out of the room and he's sitting up, and they have this talk while the door's closed, and he sneaks out the window, obviously. So Elizabeth goes up to her room, and he just says, "Oh, I buried him in the basement." He didn't bury him in the basement. He just buried his things, buried a trunk in the basement, Paul's trunk. Now, so with Jason coming back to blackmail Liz, Jason brings him with him a man by the name of Willie Loomis. Willie Loomis is Jason's henchman and apprentice. What is it with people with the last name Loomis unleashing some sort of evil in this world? Willie Loomis, Dr. Sam Loomis. Like, what is it with that last name? It must be a genetics thing. You knew I was going to go there. But there's something going on with that last name. There really is, especially in the horror community. But all jokes aside, Willie Loomis does not come to Collinsport to find Barnabas Collins. No. Willie Loomis, at first, is, like I said, he's Jason's henchman. He's Jason's, understudy, if you will. He's learning from Jason, but he's also Jason's sort of right-hand man-ish. Jason hasn't filled him in with everything he's blackmailing Liz on because Jason wants to keep that information for himself. Willie moves into Collinsport under, really not just under Liz's behest, under Jason's too. Jason really doesn't want him there at that given point because he feels it's just too soon. But Jason rolls with it. Willie hits on Carolyn, sort of makes her feel uncomfortable, and she pulls out a gun and tells him if he takes one step closer, she'll blow his goddamn head off. She doesn't say the word goddamn, but she tells him I'll blow your head off. So Willie backs off, and then after that episode, Willie is soon kicked from the house. Now, not before that David shows him all the portraits of the house, the Collins and male family members. In the drawing room, he shows him Isaac, Jeremiah, Joshua, and in the foyer, he shows him Barnabas Collins, the portrait of Barnabas Collins. And Barnabas is holding a wolf's head cane, and he's wearing this onyx ring on his finger. He's dressed in very nice clothes, 1795 clothes, has jewelry pinned on him. And so you're thinking, well, he's looking into Barnabas. Nope. What Willie starts looking into is the legend of Naomi Collins. The legend of how Naomi Collins was given jewels by a pirate. Now, I have my own fan theory on that. I won't get into that here tonight. Naomi Collins is the mother of Barnabas. Legend has it that when Naomi died, she was buried with her jewels. That pretty much all the Collins family members are, but especially Naomi. So he starts looking into where Naomi is buried. And Naomi is buried in a mausoleum. She is the middle coffin. She's buried in between her husband and her daughter, Sarah. Well, her husband, Joshua, and her daughter, Sarah. Her 9-year-old daughter, who died from illness. So Willie breaks into that mausoleum, and he's got this pulley system hooked up. He's trying to open the lid of Naomi Collins's coffin, and he hooks part of the pulley to a ring that's on a lion's mouth, in a lion's mouth. Well, upon pulling, because he's trying to pull the lid off, he can't pull the lid off. The ring begins to move, and a secret door inside the mausoleum begins to open. And behind that secret door, my friends, is the chained coffin of one Barnabas Collins. Willie sees the chained coffin, Now, I jumped a little bit, but I'm going to give a little bit of a fill in. Up until this point, when every time Willie looks at Barnabas's portrait, he's been hearing this heartbeat sound. He's been hearing boom, 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 boom. And it's sort of been driving him a bit crazy, a bit batty. No pun intended. He goes inside. Now, he goes inside the open uh, secret entrance to the mausoleum, the secret room, and he goes to the chain coffin. These chains would be easy to get open if Willie had a hammer and a crowbar. Willie goes and gets a hammer and a crowbar, and he starts chiseling away at those chains. Chains come off. Willie opens the coffin. Willie does see some jewelry, but he soon sees a man's eyes open and a hand. He soon feels a hand around his throat. You see the onyx ring that is on that hand. The next night, Jason McGuire comes back from searching for Willie. He can't find him. He's been looking for him. He takes off his coat. Mrs. Johnson tells him that Willie was asking him about the Collins family. Jason just shakes his head. He doesn't know what to do or even where to look. So Jason puts his coat down on the table, goes upstairs. Mrs. Johnson picks up the coat. She cuts a promo about how no one hands up a fin around here. As she's handing up the coat, she hears a knock at the door. She opens that door, and as she opens the door, she sees a man standing there in front of her. The man begins to talk, and he tells her, "I'm here to see Elizabeth Collins Stoddard." And, well, the rest is really history. I think Barnabas' introduction is so good. He just tells her he's his cousin from England. She lets him in, and he tells her, you can tell her it's Barnabas Collins. The very man in that portrait has come out of a sleep that he has been in since 1795. This man has been chained inside a coffin since 1795. The very place his father left him, chained inside that coffin, after not being able to drive a stake through his heart or shoot him in the head with silver bullets. He chains his son up, hoping no one will ever find him in that secret room. But now someone has found him and let him out, and now Barnabas is free to roam and do as he pleases. You know, when I saw Jonathan Frid's Barnabas Collins, by the time I had watched Dark Shadows, started watching from the beginning episodes, which, again, Barnabas wasn't a part of. Barnabas doesn't debut till episode 211. By the time I'd watched Dark Shadows and watched Jonathan Frid performance of Barnabas, I'd seen Bela Lugosi, I'd seen Christopher Lee, I had seen the movie The Lost Boys, I had seen Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I'm thinking, what else is there left to see, right, from a vampire standpoint? Here comes Jonathan Frid's Barnabas Collins, the first ever sympathetic vampire. Yes, he kidnaps Maggie Emmons, but he doesn't kill her, and he had plenty of opportunity to kill her. She escapes with the help of the ghost of Sarah Collins, Barnabas' sister. Now, Barnabas eventually becomes the sympathetic vampire we all love and know. Barnabas has been an antagonist, a protagonist, and an in-between character. and it's been nothing short of amazing. Jonathan Frid's portrayal was truly something else to behold. Some people might say, well, he was Bela Lugosi. I 1000% disagree. When I see when I saw Bela Lugosi's Dracula, and then I saw Jonathan Frid's Barnabas, I'm like, this is not Dracula. This is not Bela Lugosi. You could say he wore black like Bela, sure, but if you just start saying that, a lot of vampires wore black. It's sort of it's sort of part of the repertoire now, isn't it? Just hey, wear something black. But Barnabas had a style of his own too. He had the onyx ring, he had the wolf's head cane, and he had this posture about him where he could be so gentle when speaking to his family, and yet so dangerous when he wanted to be. If you messed with Barnabas Collins, you best sure you were going to pay the goddamn price, especially when the sun went down. Um, there's a lot of characters that met their fate by the hands of one Barnabas Collins, played by the late great Jonathan Frid. Keep in mind that Barnabas Collins, the character, is going to go through so many things. And really, when you think about it, he's the first really time traveler too, because he's the one who travels forward in time. He's come from the year 1795. He's laid in that coffin from 1795 to 1967. It's amazing, right? So he's traveled forward in time just by laying in a coffin for all that time. Time has literally passed Barnabas by while he's laid there. And so, really, Barnabas is the first time traveler before Victoria Winters even is. And as he traveled forward, right? So, and so many things is going to happen to Barnabas. He's going, once Maggie escapes, soon after that, Barnabas meets a psychiatrist who is so interested with the supernatural and the study of it. He meets a doctor by the name of Dr. Julia Hoffman, who originally was mentioned as a man in the series, just called Dr. Hoffman at the time. But then they changed the sex completely. They refer to her, the next time you hear the name Hoffman, it's mentioned as a female, Dr. Julia Hoffman, played by Grayson Hall, the late great Grayson Hall. And Frid and Hall just had great chemistry together, as did Frid did with everybody else. When I look at Barnabas, I look at a vampire an actor who really revolutionized what a vampire was. It was so different from anything I had seen prior. It was different from Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee. And really, when I watched The Lost Boys, Kiefer Sutherland's character may not be sympathetic, but the father, the vampire dad, sort of was in that movie. And I'm thinking, did that come from that movie? And when you watch Dark Shadows, you find out where the sympathetic vampire really came from. It came from Dan Curtis and Jonathan Frid, Frid's portrayal of the character, and just the things he went through. I could never look at Barnabas and hate him. I couldn't, no matter if he killed somebody or not. He was just that type of character. You were sort of rooting for this character who you never knew what he was going to do, ever. You just didn't. Even I've been through that coffin box set up and down, and anytime I go back and I watch the Barnabas Collins arc, it's just amazing what Frid was able to do to bring such range to this vampire role. You know, I know they said they wanted a blonde haired actor. Thank God they didn't. I mean, seriously, thank God they got Jonathan Frid, because I don't think it would have worked out if they would have went with a blonde haired vampire. It just wouldn't have. I mean, here's Frid. He's playing a character who, as Frid puts it, well, he's a liar. You know, he's telling a lot of lies. He's protecting himself. But in many ways, I would dare say Frid's Barnabas isn't just protecting himself. When he lies to sort of cover up his secret, he's also protecting his family, because he doesn't try to hurt his family, not intentionally. He wants to live a life, some sort of life, the life he didn't get to really have in 1795. And if he has to live that by vampire, he'll damn well do that. And Barnabas goes through so many things. After Victoria Winters travels back in time but via seance in 1795, and we learn how Barnabas became a vampire by a witch, Barnabas is soon cured. Not for long, though, don't worry. It doesn't stick. Um, Barnabas and himself goes through time, goes back to 1897, and becomes a vampire again. When he comes back to the present, he's met with the Leviathan, and they eventually turn him back into the vampire. By the end of the series, Jonathan Frid's Barnabas isn't a vampire anymore. Angelique has released the curse, and Angelique dies, literally dies, no longer a witch, in 1840. Goodness. Um, you know, I love this character. I love what Jonathan Frid brought to the character. And I know I'm going on and on and on, but there's just so much there. There really is. I think when you watch Jonathan Frid's portrayal, you really take away that this character, yes, was brought to life by Dan Curtis, but it was also brought to life by its actor, the actor who played him, and that was Jonathan Frid. He brought that range and that emotion to that character. And that's something you didn't see in a Dracula. You didn't see that sympathetic pain, the facial expressions, the emotions Barnabas would make with his body, with his face, just with his eyes. You knew when he was feeling something. The hurt in his voice when he's talking to Josette's portrait. It's all there. And so, that being said, to me, there wasn't a vampire like Barnabas prior to Barnabas, but there were many vampires like Barnabas after Barnabas Collins, and that's not by accident. And that's something that Jonathan Frid does not get enough credit for, inspiring other vampires to have this range of emotion. And that's something he definitely deserves credit for, as does Dan Curtis. So that's my video for tonight, guys. One of them, anyway. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I want to thank everybody who voted for the thumbnail. At Frid Barnabas, at Willie Loomis, at Pop Rag, I think at Barnabas, one of the Barnabas voted. Again, I didn't check before I hopped on here. So to all who did vote, if I missed your name, just thank you for voting for the thumbnail for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next video.